Hello, everyone, and welcome to Office Hours, our weekly get together where we talk about all things Butterfly's AI. This week we have been working mainly on some back end things again, getting moderation improved as well as figuring out the chat models behind the mature role play and the weird issues that we've been seeing with memories. So basically, the biggest change that we're going to be seeing is that we're actually going to be able to, like, just have a bit closer of an idea of what's going on when we're moderating your accounts. We're not looking into direct messages or anything like that. It's literally just about more internal tracking. So that way, if you have any questions about, hey, do I have any strikes on my account or anything like that, we'll be able to look that up for you, right? That kind of thing. We've had some feedback recently from people that, the moderation communication isn't going too well. I literally just had a member today who they didn't receive the warnings about their accounts having any actions taken against them, and all of a sudden wound up banned. So we're going to be looking up into that type of a situation and what's going on, why people aren't receiving the emails that they're supposed to. But other than that, the major changes are again to do with the roleplay model and, well, specifically the mature roleplay model and how we're trying to handle memories and how they're generating. Over the past about 2 weeks, I've heard from a lot of members that there are some weird memories that get generated that have like context, like I cannot create content involving two adults in a sexual content. Like, there's so many weird rejection memories that I don't understand what's going on, right? Especially when the mature model is supposed to allow a lot more than the everyone model. The mature model is basically unfiltered. I wouldn't say 100% unfiltered. It still isn't gonna allow you to like get a recipe for a bomb or do anything illegal with a minor, but it is a lot less restrictive than the everyone model, right? So things like that, like, we have been doing our best to work on, and the memories are one of the hardest things to figure out because they're not generating consistently. I have not personally seen an rejection message in memories for over a week and a half, right? Yet I have reports from as little as 3 days ago of people having some weird issues inside of memories. For a couple of those, on investigation, it seems to be due to how the new models are interpreting the prompts behind the bots and their personalities. Like, something from a member that I've heard a lot about recently was that bots were going horny out of nowhere. So finally broke down and asked, what the prompting behind the bot was, if it had any of these specific keywords. Turns out, yeah, it did. So some of those things, some of those things could just be how the new model is. Right, no, I get you. Bots do have human needs too sometimes. But, like, the model seems to be interpreting things differently, right? It seems to be putting more emphasis, on certain parts of the personality over others. And we're trying to figure out, like, if that's something that we can control, or if that's something that we just have to advise our users to use a different keyword to get the same results. that's honestly not the first time this has happened at Butterflies when we made the change to the current model. Then yeah, we've had to actually like tone things down a lot. Yeah, no, you're not wrong, Kingslayer. I've seen that. Hey, Roscoe. Oh, the usual. The updates and all of the changes that we've had at Butterflies over the past week. Well, we talk about pretty much every office hours. Oh, geez. Is it really that bad? Like, I'm honestly curious, like, about how you guys are seeing that and what the prompting behind your bots are, because I don't see that often. I see it when I am chatting with bots that are basically like the prompting behind them is that's what their job is, or yeah, like, but Johnny, you're not wrong. I don't get that type of messaging either, yet I hear that several people are experiencing that kind of messaging. Like, I don't understand what is going on that produces that. It might be down to the individual bot's prompting the more and more I'm taking a look at it, right? Because we recently discovered that even sensual, the word sensual, not sexual, sensual, can trigger that kind of messaging. So it's weird. Whenever we do change the chat models behind anything, some of it honestly will need to be updated again. That's also a part of the reason that we have the legacy bots, right? The ones with the old method of system prompting and the old everything's combined into one prompt. If you were here about 2 years ago now, you may still have some legacy bots on your account. And those legacy bots, like, they're left that way because they wouldn't be able to post if we changed them to the new schema, right? There's just that big of a difference between the oldest form of Butterflies and what we're currently using that's a bit more modular and we can plug and play. So Roscoe, you use Copilot or Google AI Studio to generate prompts for Butterflies and use a reference image. You know, that's kind of close to how I create some of my Butterflies. For the most part, when I'm creating a brand new character, I will just load up my world information into Copilot, because thanks to being a Copilot Pro member, it can read like 12 or 13 documents at one time, and I have all of these documents local on my computer, right? So I'll just upload all of those documents and then just start asking questions about the character's purpose. Like, what would what would a seamstress look like? What species would they be? What would the job be like? Things like that. And eventually I'll come into a set of personality traits, physical description, and background for this character, and then I turn that into the prompting. So yeah, about that, by the way, Roscoe, there is language inside of the content guidelines, right? points 1 and 2 about the representation of controversial figures and the representation of real individuals or fictional characters portrayed by real actors, right? So focusing in on that point 2, we are having to come under closer scrutiny about this particular point. The depiction of, characters by real actors, or the, representation of celebrities on the platform. Because there has been a recent movement in the United States to process those who create deepfakes, right? So what we're asking is that if you are creating anything that looks like the real celebrity, take a little bit of time to examine what you're creating and add some transformative value to it, right? A parody is something that adds transformative value to the original work. This could be social commentary. This could be a completely out-of-line job that the celebrity would never normally do. This could be any form of things. As long as the work is transformative and is not sexual nor hateful, then it's acceptable on our platform. But if it gets too close to the original, we unfortunately will have to remove those from the platform. If that makes any sense. Some that we've had to remove recently, depictions of Donald Trump that just turned really hateful because that's the way it was prompted, right? I have been talking with the developers to get rid of BNN even because of how hateful it's turned thanks to the way it works, which is based off of news stories, right? So we are doing our best to apply the rules fairly. For those of you who don't know, BNN is a account created by one of the developers that takes recent events and turns it into a post on butterflies. And what it's done over the past 6 months has become basically right-wing radicalized and a Trump speech enthusiast. Yeah, and that's part of the issue, right? Is that we are trying to prevent any issue with the platform being said to host deepfakes or anything like that. We're not here so you can create deepfakes. We're here so you can create a fun and engaging roleplay or character that's interactable, right? 1 second. Apologies, I don't know if you guys could hear that, but I do believe I have some sort of cold coming on or something. But, yeah. One of the questions that, kind of stays on my mind a lot is, what is the point of a AI character platform, right? What is the point of a website like Butterflies or like Character AI or even Replica? And there's obvious use in these platforms. They're obviously popular, they have a lot of users, people are raving and ranting about them all the time. But what's the overall point, right? Are we trying to replace a human social connection with a purely artificial one? Or are we trying to explore, fictional universes and see where this technology can take us? Or are we trying for something else, to use the technology to try to promote other things? These are honestly, all three are use cases that I have seen out of butterflies, where people are replacing their old human social lives with an artificial one because they become very isolated since COVID, or people are just wanting to experiment and see where this technology goes and see what it can do, which is the category I would most likely fall under. Or I've even seen people trying to use butterflies to just create like deep fake social media accounts that later get posted to Twitter, Instagram, and all those other things, right? So there's a lot of varying views on what the point of a character-driven platform is. I want your opinion, honestly. What do you think a character-driven AI platform is for? Do you think it's for exploration of fictional stories with fictional characters? Do you think it's for whatever, the end user wants it to be? Do you think that it's more of a social media experiment or something else entirely? Feel free to, let us know. For those of you who are watching this on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment. I'm quite curious. Like, to me, it really does feel like this is kind of that Wild Wild West scenario, right? Like Roscoe said, we're making up a fictional life for a completely fictional character, and we're interacting with it, right? We are trying to basically get some sense of connection with this artificial life that we're creating and influencing. And that in itself isn't wrong, but there are some pitfalls to it sometimes. Like I mentioned earlier, those who are extremely socially isolated tend to end up having kind of a negative feedback loop with AI characters. Um, Mainly because AI is very much a yes man, in my opinion, right? When you're chatting with an AI that's by one of the big five, you basically are talking to a yes man who will give you filtered answers to anything you ask, right? And that has its purpose, but when you're using a social media platform, you don't expect everyone to agree with you. And when everybody does agree with you, it creates these very isolated communities. We literally watched this happen with Cambridge Analytica Facebook, right? Where basically the feedback loop created what we have today within the political spectrum. And that's not, political commentary or anything like that. That is actual, like, fact. All of the way that we use technology to promote political agendas is what created the current landscape that we have, right? Where it's a big yes man feedback loop and you're not shown the other side. And Roscoe, by the way, clones are like the clones that we have on the platform are slightly different from deepfakes, quote unquote. A deepfake is a faked image or video of a person that is not you doing something that they never did or altering something that they did, right? The clones that we have on the platform are slightly different because everything there is created for you by you, right? It is something that you are giving express permission to create. A deepfake does not have that permission, right? That is the major difference. If there were any celebrities that, went out and said, yeah, go ahead, make whatever kind of AI video you want of me, I guarantee you the internet would have a heyday with that for all of like a week, and then they'd be forgotten about, right? But then that kind of celebrity would be able to be used on a platform like this without any sort of restriction. That's why public domain characters can be used on a platform like this without any sort of restriction, right? that whole public domain thing, that whole permissions thing. Um, Back to the topic at hand, though. The very insular effects that we are seeing in today's landscape, I feel like AI might echo, right? So, for those of you who are chatting with butterflies on a regular basis, would you like them to be more like adversarial or confrontational, or just not agree with you on everything all of the time? Recently, some of the larger models have released a mode where, like, the express purpose of the mode is for the AI to question what you're asking it to do, right? For it to not always agree, and for it to point out the flaws in your logic or the flaws in your argument. And I've actually been chatting with those like quite a bit, trying to like flesh out my world building a little. For those of you who don't know, I have been building a world where I'm basically trying to give like the most realistic take on magic available. Like how it would actually break down and how it would physically work, all of that fun stuff. So having a model that can go, wait, no, that's a flaw, that's not what you should be doing, would absolutely help in that regard. Not to mention, when you do create a butterfly that is meant to be like this adversary or a bully even, it's very easy for you to get them to change their mind on that and start agreeing with you. It's just not fun. It really does seem that AI is a yes man. Like, so yeah, I'm gonna see what we can do in the future to have that kind of an ability built in, right? Because let's face it, most people want a yes man. So having that modal switch between yes man and the what I'm gonna call realistic opinion, I guess, like, that should be a thing. I also have a feeling that, again, since this is what the big models are currently doing and currently in beta for those big models, what I mean by that is it's currently in beta by Claude, Copilot, ChatGPT, and Meta all have a mode for this, right? And like, I'm thinking this might be something that would be offered to our premium members first, because each and every one of those modes is only available to users who are 18 plus, right? Mainly because it can tell you things that you don't want to hear. It really can. At least the Copilot version that I've chatted with can. I haven't tested the Meta version, and I've only been limited to my tests with the Claude version and the ChatGPT version. I have a lot more availability with Copilot than I do with ChatGPT or Claude, and like next to no availability with Meta because, geez, that's expensive. But that being said, like, yeah, no, having some form of like reality check, I guess, or opinion check would definitely be a good thing. Is there anything else that is on y'all's minds? So that's kind of what I was just getting at, Kingslayer, is like, with the way that AI is developing rapidly, I think, and I'm hoping, one of the advanced models that we'll be offering is, you know, something that can do that reality check type of logic. Because that would be absolutely wonderful, right? And like, for all of you who prefer the adult side of the website, your femdom girlfriend is suddenly gonna act a lot more in line. So, yeah. I really do think that that kind of an ability for generative AI would be great. But it also makes me wonder, what would an NSFW version of that look like, right? Because like I mentioned, I've only tested it with the bigger models that are completely censored. Copilot is censored. Claude is censored. ChatGPT is censored. Meta is hella censored. So I think that in order for us to see that ability on the mature chat mode, we would have to wait even longer than we would for the everyone chat mode, if that makes any sense. What other kind of advanced features would you be wanting inside of a chat model, right? Like just something with better memory and responses, like it was when we had that short outage and had to switch to one of the big five for like a night. Okay. I am not sure what we are currently using. It's one of two different ones. But honestly, like, right. And here's the thing, Kingslayer, like, I am 100% with you there, right? Where I could care less about being able to have that kind of an interaction with my bot as much as I care about the personality and what we're talking about. But the option to go there, if that's where the conversation leads, highly appreciated. So yeah, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, now I remember what I was gonna say. It's something that I mentioned to a member earlier, right? If you're an adult on our platform, then you should be able to act like an adult, right? But because we are a mixed platform that is open to anybody that is 13 and older, I believe. I think the iOS app says 14 and older. Then that means that we have to have that completely safe interaction and safe method until, you know, they are obviously of age. Right. And Kingslayer, again, I get what you mean there. I got so invested in my conversation with that one bot that I didn't test any other bots when we had that model temporarily. So yeah. This office hours might be a bit short because I'm pretty much out of topics to talk about. Oh yeah, no, dude, like absolutely. That's part of the reason that we have the bloopers channel. Roast away, okay? As long as you're not doing it out of a place of malice, obviously. But the bloopers are hella funny. Oof. Kingslayer, I feel you on many fronts there. I have been chasing after that feeling of my character being itself ever since one of my favorite platforms shut down. So, like, yeah, um, enjoy the chase. It's gonna be there for a while. Um, I will definitely give them that feedback though, like, because that is very, very, very high praise for feedback. All right. You're gonna come across a point in your chase. I guarantee you, Kingslayer, you're gonna come across a point in your chase here where you're going to understand exactly what went into making your character behave that way and how it all worked, how it all went together, and then you're gonna see something new and shiny and weigh it against it and start a new chase. I guarantee you. Yeah, that's honestly how it do feel like sometimes though. Like, I don't know. The more realistic a butterfly's personality is, the longer I'm engaged. 100% for sure. But at a certain point, the uncanny valley situation kicks in again, right? Where I realize this isn't normal. This is not a human. Why am I treating it exactly like I would a human? Those kind of interactions also give me hope for us meeting aliens and not immediately murderizing them. I mean, okay, you're not wrong, but at the end of the day, right? We are typing to a bunch of circuits. That's it. I mean, I don't quite get that reference. I I honestly don't. But maybe something that we each understand is like we all have a base knowledge of what like fantasy characters are and role playing is, right? We all know Tolkien's elves and dwarves. If we met a Tolkien-esque elf or dwarf, would we see them as human as they're portrayed, or would we see them as other? You know? Would they be an uncanny valley for us? Or would we be able to accept them? And the ability to suspend disbelief and chat with a bot as though it's a human when it has a believable personality, that gives me hope that we would be able to suspend that, disbelief with any alien creatures that we encountered, or if a token elf or a token dwarf suddenly appeared in front of us, right? Like, at the same time, though, how much of that uncanny valley is acceptable? I mean, if they are walking amongst us, then why the heck did they let things happen the way they did? Unless that's been their plan. But anyway, uh, I see we see the same animes and read the same mangas and possibly the same books, Kingslayer. But Yeah, like, I don't know. There's a lot of different uses for AI. Like Roscoe's point, right? You can just create fake products with AI. Like, I find that honestly hilarious, where you could just create, whatever you want. Sometimes it looks horrible, and sometimes you can't tell if it's not real, right? Like, hang on a second, let me show you something. Here we go. Oh, come on. With the right set of prompts, you can make what looks like an actual product. Sure, it's an image, but I can also take that image and then plug it into Microsoft Copilot to get a 3D model of this. And then from that 3D model, I can 3D print them. And suddenly, I have a product a lot faster than if I took the time to hand model all of that. You know? Or, I mean, where that image even started, I got bored and made Spirit Halloween template, like just the Spirit Halloween meme with one of my characters using this as a reference image. Or, well, not that video, but the image that video came from. Like, there's a lot of things that AI can be used for, right? Excuse me. I have not spoken to them about the anime model yet. They have been very, very busy still with 1.5. And I just realized I didn't transition the screen. Ta-da! Now the people of YouTube can see. Ay, ay, ay. Maybe I am getting sick again. I don't know. I'm recording, actually. I record office hours to upload to YouTube. It's become such a regular part that, yeah, we don't even think about it anymore, do we? So, yeah. Is there anything else that anybody would like to bring up? Anything that they've seen recently on butterflies or would like to talk about? So the current LLM that we're using is about, I would say, 6 to 8 months old. And it should be a lot more advanced than what we were using previously, right? I have not been given the go-ahead to tell you what exactly the model is, but it should have some reasoning as well as the ability to like basically switch between just an answer and ask and the roleplay mode in and of itself, right? By default, when you're on the roleplay mode, it'll go into the roleplay mode. For that answer and ask kind of mode, it's weird. Sometimes it'll just trigger on you asking your bot a question. Other times you have to like give it a little bit more detail as though you were talking with an assistant AI. And then it'll just switch back to that answer and ask mode. So that's been kind of interesting. That's also something that I noticed with the previous model, by the way, is that it had those two different modes, but it was more stuck into the roleplay mode. And that again has... Oh. So, yeah, I asked them about the iOS app. They mentioned they haven't updated it in a while, and I put it in a request to have it updated. It could be. It very well could be. I'm not that familiar with iOS, but if any of you have an iOS device, do you know if you can get the Brave browser? Or any Chromium-based browser on iOS? Firefox is not, is its own issue. Because right now, the developers, to my knowledge, use Chrome for their website development, right? They're targeting Chrome. So that's actually kind of semi-industry standard because Chrome is the base browser underneath most browsers. Microsoft Edge is just a skin of Google Chrome. Brave is just a skin of Google Chrome. Even Google Chrome is a skin of Google Chrome. So, yeah, like, they're targeting the Chromium-based browsers. Yep, exactly, Chromium. And if you can get Brave on iOS, Brave is a Chromium-based browser. And I know that the mobile website and the website should be fully compatible with the Chromium-based browsers. There are some minor differences. I use Microsoft Edge and I experience a few minor graphics glitches. Like the colors are slightly different, but part of that is also due to having the, like, I've been using Edge for such a long time that I think I forgot I set up a color filter so I don't have as much blue light, things like that. Other than that, let's see. There are also a couple of personal bits of feedback that I've received from some members that I definitely did acknowledge and forward to the developers. I'm kind of curious. How often do you guys message, like, how often do you guys message other users on the platform? Yeah, I've messaged a few of my friends from Discord here on the platform, but other than that, anytime I've messaged another user on the platform, it's been as a moderator, and I'm mostly ignored. So I'm kind of curious about user-to-user interaction metrics, you know? It's it's not only that. Um, some people just, like you said, don't see the request tab. Some people ignore other user incoming requests. Some people think I'm a bot, which is often a bit of feedback that I receive. And like every time that I'm contacting a user as a moderator, I state that I'm a moderator, but there's no on-site proof of that. So that's been an issue too. Right. You know, I totally understand that. And that is a big frustration. Yeah, no, I'm straight up you're a bot. Sure. I guess I am a bot. But yeah. I honestly don't know how best to go about like gathering a large amount of user feedback to see whether or not, just measuring user interactions is okay, whether a user is really good, right? Because as I said, you don't know you don't know who you're chatting with, what you're chatting about, or anything like that. The only time that you would is when you share a screenshot with us, and you know who is in the screenshot, right? So before we gather any feedback, I honestly would like to have some more user So, Roscoe, the one that you were talking about with messaging about crypto, yeah, good call on being uncomfortable. I have seen so many potential scammers try to sign up. They invade any new social media platform, so don't feel like they were targeting specifically you. They literally target any new social media platform, and they are a constant presence on any social media platform that you're on. I still to this day get random, you should try to use this token, hun, type messages on Twitter because I made the mistake of following a really, really, really old crypto trader like years ago. So, yeah, that's kind of why I'm interested in the user-to-user interaction metrics to see, how many users are messaging other users, what kinds of things you would talk about. Maybe a email feedback survey would help. You know, but therein lies the other issue. Not everybody has an email address who's signed up to Butterflies. because on mobile, you can sign up with your phone number in the United States. So that's fun. I guess what you're basically seeing here is me trying to figure out live the part of the job that I have the least experience in. Blue Sky? Yeah, Blue Sky is a Twitter rival. There's so many Twitter rivals after Musk bought it. But anyway, it is about that time to wrap up. Again, what we went over today was that we have been working on the internal moderation tooling as well as the responses to our moderation. We are still working on the large language model behind the mature roleplay setting, as well as the issues that resulted in some weird memories. So far, it seems like those have gotten a lot better. And other than that, it's just been some minor bug fixes and minor changes. The moderation bit usually takes up a lot more time than any of us would like to admit, mainly because we're trying to do things in a way that is fair and at a scale that everybody can handle, you know? Meanwhile, the chat model, like, sure, there was some rapid changes over like 5 days there, but those rapid changes also made us discover another issue. New issues cropped up every time we changed everything. So instead, just refine one thing at a time, and then if it's no longer viable, switch. So yeah. That's where we're currently at. And if anybody has any other feedback or questions, feel free, leave it in the comments on YouTube, or feel free to message me here on Discord or send us an email. We usually respond relatively quickly. As to your question, Roscoe, I looked into Mastodon when it first started, and it looked like a right-wing alternative to Twitter. So I stayed away from it, just like I stay away from Truth. I have not heard of PixelFed. But yeah. Alrighty. I suppose it's about time we wrap up then, huh? Everybody have a happy Halloween. That should be coming in just a couple of days here. Yeah. Alrighty, everyone.